Whatever time frame you decide to trade, on that time frame you need to get into depth and understand the setup which are appearing on that time frame every week. So for this I have a process and a scan which I use every day to look at stocks which have made 20% move and which one of them I found on the day of the breakout and entered, and how do they look on that particular day. So if you want to look at this, let's have a look at this in TC2000. Now in TC2000, this scan which I run is basically 20% plus study. So this looks for a stock which is up 20% plus and volume is greater than 100,000 in last 3 days and price is greater than 5 days. And if you see last week or in the last 5 days, you have 35 stocks which made this particular move. So now let's look at some of the examples of these good trades which found, like here. This is a breakout day. As you can see, it was also signal day, breakout signal day, which is my breakout signal day. And after that, in 3 days, it made around 17% move, which is typically what you will see with this kind of a setups, which is like a 3 to 5 days momentum burst, is a inherent tendency of the market. When buying comes in, it comes in bursts of 3 to 5 days, and in that particular 3 to 5 days moves, and the stock makes anywhere between 8 to 20, sometimes more than 20% move. And this move can start from any level, as you will see in this week, particular week basically. So as you can see, that was a good thing. This was basically a post earnings reaction kind of a setup. After like earnings, it had a pullback and then it just blasted, and in 3 days, 4 days, it made around 31% move. Depending on when you entered, it was possible to enter it during that day itself. So that was the good entry point for that. AI, again, this was a earnings news. The earnings, anything related to AI in this market is basically going and making big moves. So this in 3 days or 4 days made around 35% move basically. While this is not a setup which I took, even though this could have been possible. There was a buy signal there, but I didn't take that. But it did make a move of like it didn't really make an explosive move. QB, this was a good setup because it was going sideways. Then there was this signal, as you can see, this is buy signal, and in 3 days after the buy signal, it made around 16% move. Now, if you look at like an SAT, say this is like in a very choppy. I don't really trade very choppy stocks. On the breakout day, it didn't really close near the high, so I didn't really get into this particular setup. This is another example of like a momentum burst which really worked. I didn't take this, but like you will see when you study momentum burst that it can start from any level, and momentum burst which start from these kind of choppy and this kind of levels, 52-week low or things like that, can also work. So if you see here, this was a very good momentum burst which worked. So a lot of people have this set of requirements where they don't want to trade stocks below 50-day moving average or stage 1, stage 2, all kind of things they have. But if you're strictly looking for 3 to 5 days moves, you just have to look at the immediate background to the move, and if the stock is making a big range expansion from any kind of a valid buy point, it still is a good idea to buy it basically. Here again, I didn't really get into any one of these kind of setups. This was too choppy for me. This I didn't really get into, even though there was a signal here. I think there was earnings or news here or some news here. Now ALOX, this kind of a moves where you get like this 200% in a day. These are best traders as intraday, day trade. After a 200% move, the probability of immediate follow through is very low basically. Now Ionic, even though this was a 3 days good move, but like there was no signal, so it didn't really show up in the scans on that day, or like I didn't really see it on that day basically. This was a good one. Palantir, this is like basically post earnings. Earnings was here and it had a very orderly pullback, and there was a breakout, and then just in 3 days stock made 21% move basically. MGTX, which is another one which but like on this breakout day there was not a very good pattern because it had already had a 6% move before that basically. VTSI, this was like in a here, but again before the breakout day there was a 9% move. I didn't really think on this particular day that it was a valid setup, so I didn't really Look at that, right? And SCL, so there's nothing here. And now this is again, like, and if you see on this particular day, it was a good, nice breakout, because you had, like, this first leg, small 1 or 2 days consolidation breaking out, and the stock did follow through, and the stock made a move of around 20% in next 3 days after that. Now NVTS, this is a stock which has good sales growth, and it had a breakout here. So you see that it showed up in a breakout scan on this particular day, and here, and then it did move for 4 days, and in 4 days stock made a move of around 28%, right? Now these are not really stocks which I played. This is another example of a stock which, like, basically started a momentum burst from a low, but like I wasn't in it, because I like stocks to trade close near high for consideration. So if a stock is not closing near high, then I don't really look at it. My conditions really look for a stock which closes near high, because if a stock doesn't show momentum on the breakout day and doesn't close exactly, not exactly at high, but like within 15% of a high, then I don't consider it. So sometimes, like, stocks don't close, but they can still work, basically. It's an example of that, basically. Here, like, basically this is something which was a buy on Friday. There is a breakout here, very clean breakout, basically. Everquote, again, like, I say, this is how it will look on the day of the breakout, right? And basically you have a clean breakout and closing near the high, and that is enough. It did make 11% in the next 3 days, basically. This was a very nice setup for obvious reason, many reasons. It was a very good setup, because you have a first leg. This is like a continuation setup, a small pullback, and then, like, basically stock breaks out with high and closes near high. So that's a good breakout, and that did really well in terms of last 3 or 4 days, making 18% move. Kodak, this is again, like, I say, here on the breakout day, this is how it will look. You had a small move and then utterly pullback, stock is breaking out, and it made, like, just 1 day move, didn't really 12% in 1 day, didn't really follow through much after that. And UISC again really didn't blast up after this particular breakout. Then RX, this is not something which I considered also. This is something which Voyager, this is a very good breakout, and then it made a move of around 17-18% in 3 days after that, right? Applied Digital, this is like an EP. There was a news on this particular thing, and from the news catalyst, it made a move of around 64% in just 4 days. Whenever you have a momentum burst, where, like, there's a sudden burst of momentum, the probability exists that the stock is going to move in that direction of momentum burst for next 3 to 4 days. And this is something which is inherent to the way the market has operated since the market has started, because whenever new buyers come into the market, or there's a strong buying in the market for that particular day, it attracts more buyer for the next 2 or 3 days. And there are different levels of players in the market. There are players who buy on the first day because they are on top of the news, they are scanning for it, or they are professional traders. Then there are newsletter followers who will buy on a second day, and then there is a residual buyers who are less sophisticated, or they don't really, and they still buy on a third day. Or if a fund is buying a position and they want to accumulate certain amount of shares, they will continue to buy till the third day, basically. So Applied Digital is one of the things which you can see here, which was a good, like TO. This was a very nice setup. Again, like, and if you see breaking out after, like, going sideways for a long period of time. Here also it was a better setup, basically, and stock did make a move, lower priced, not something which I focus on. RNR didn't close near high. If something doesn't close near high, I don't really look at it. But many times stocks which don't close near high can also still go on to make a move. SRPT, it's very choppy, something which, like, is so choppy, I never get into it, because that is not a very reliable kind of a setup. Here, Schrodinger, this is a good setup. 2 possible buy points here. The second buy point was much better, so second buy point, and after second buy point, stock has made a move up around 16%. Again, this is not something which I got into, but to show you, like, stocks can start their momentum burst of 3 to 5 days from any level, and this you can check for yourself by doing a deep dive. So you had around 35 moves on the bullish side. On the bearish side of this equation, again I run a scan, not that I focus too much on the bearish side, but you had Northern European Oil Trust where there was a breakdown, big gap downs. I don't really get into. I don't see many tradable setup on the short side for this particular week from a breakdown kind of a thing here. This is on a news which was down. This was like in a low priced. This is again like in one day stock goes down 79-80%. Everything happens in that one day, so that's not good for shorting. This was probably gold, and then turn, sit, and walks. So if you're looking at like basically trying to do a swing trading on a 3 to 5 days time frame, this kind of a study and continuously doing this study every weeks after weeks after weeks, if you keep doing, what happens is like you understand the nuances of the move. You understand, look, this move can start from any level. You understand that there should be a little bit of a pullback or some sort of a negative move or like consolidation before this breakout should close near high, and these certain conditions if you can put in, then you can find moves like this on a weekly basis, on a daily basis basically. So this study is just reinforces the concept of breakouts. It also is a good way of tracking which of the breakout, because all these breakouts show up in the scan on the day of the breakout. So why did you select not select some of the better breakout? Why did you select the other one? And the one which you selected, why it didn't work? And the one which worked, why did they work? Where you can put a stop? Where can you put in exit strategies, and how you can exit this kind of thing? So daily study of 25% or daily study of 20% moves is one of the studies which I do every day without fail first thing in the morning. It takes around 15 to 20 minutes to do this, and that allows you to perfect your game of swing trading.